Hi, my name is Frank Schaefer. I left an evangelical right-wing background more than 30 years ago to become a progressive activist. I'm also an author of many fiction and nonfiction books. But today I want to say something that I think will be unfortunately true. I want to make a prediction, and that is that Trump knows he is going to lose the election unless he finds some massive way to cheat, whether it's lying about a vaccine being ready or whether it is essentially hobbling the U.S. Postal Service through putting a friend of his in charge with the express instructions to destroy it, to stop vote by mail. But I think all of that notwithstanding, even including Republican voter suppression and the rest of it, he pretty well knows he's going to lose. Now, I want to warn you. I understand this man. I've been there, done that. Back in my evangelical days, I was one of those people who essentially was prepared to sell his soul for both the money and the access to power that we had in the religious right in the 1970s and 80s, hobnobbing with Ronald Reagan, both Bush presidents, Gerald Ford, who invited my parents to come stay in the White House and they slept in the Lincoln bedroom, etc., etc. I know the drill. And I want to predict something about Trump's final days as president. He is going to take revenge on a nation that he regards as having rejected him. You know, Adolf Hitler, sitting in his bunker in Germany, just toward the end of the war, devised a plan called scorched earth policy that he tried to put in place, saying that essentially the German people had failed him and that the nation of Germany did not deserve to survive the end of the war. He knew he was going to commit suicide rather than be handed over to the approaching Russians who were coming into Berlin at that time. I think Trump is starting to indulge in his own scorched earth policy. He is taking revenge on us. You think it's far-fetched? I don't. Look at the way he revenges himself on whistleblowers, on anyone who even dares to speak up to him, let alone stand up to him. On the useless cycles of revenge and tweets he launches even against civilians, powerless, ordinary people, because they take a knee at a football game, whatever it may be. Trump is a lot of things, but he's not a forgiver, and he will not forgive us, the American people, for rejecting him. He knows it's coming. Expect him to do everything from executive orders trying to mess with the payroll tax to undermine Social Security and undermine our social welfare system, to continuing to deconstruct the post office, to undermining the credibility of our intelligence services by siding with Vladimir Putin. This man is a traitor to the United States. All he cares about is himself. He's not very bright. The reason he's so bitter is because he understands that having lost the presidency, he probably will end his days in prison because he has drawn attention to his malfeasance over a 30, 40-year career of corrupt dealing, even back into his dealings with the mob in the 1980s in New York. And he knows that there is going to be hell to pay. Delay with tax returns and the rest of it will not save him. And so now he will revenge himself on us the way he did on Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, the whistleblower, the way he tried to do with all the people who have stood up against him, including Marine Corps generals that, by the way, my Marine son, who fought in Afghanistan, served under, and some of whom I know personally because I wrote a bestseller about my experience of being a Marine father. He will revenge himself on this country. Watch for something more than treason as we count down to the election. And after the election, during the interregnum between him losing and Joe Biden taking office, with the caveat of massive dirty tricks that could derail that, watch for the time between the election and January as a time of absolute chaos when he goes from sending veiled threats and mixed signals to his thug army of armed militia, Nazis, etc., white supremacists and others, to direct calls saying, let's stand up and refuse to accept the election. He knows that in the end that would not prevail. If nothing else, the U.S. military would come in and remove him, because there are still some generals in the Pentagon who take their oath seriously. But the amount of chaos he will cause as a destroyer, as someone seeking revenge, will boggle the mind. So I predict scorched earth policy from now on. Interpret everything he says and does as revenge on the United States of America, including doing nothing about COVID, lying through his teeth, continuing to reach out to Russia and other authoritarian and totalitarian powers, while, for instance, removing troops from Germany to encourage Russia to lean on Europe as revenge on the West that rejected him. He is into his revenge phase. This is Trump plus scorched earth. You heard it here. I'm telling you the truth. I know these people. I grew up with the religious right. They're a vengeful crowd. It's one reason they like Donald Trump. Just watch the way they conduct their church splits and what happens to the people who lose. He is coming after, not Colonel Vindman this time, but all of us. My name is Frank Schaefer.